Welcome everyone who's tuned in. My name's Tim Mckibben. I'm here at the Peaceful Land of Joy Meditation Centre, the Tibetan Buddhist Society, to the north of Melbourne, and in a beautiful traditional Tibetan temple. So this is our regular 4 o'clock Path to Enlightenment class. So thanks everyone for turning up. If anyone wants the prayers, we say some prayers at the beginning, then feel free to email events@tushita.org and you'll see the prayers. Someone will email you the prayers. And at the end of this session, we'll have a live chat. If by any chance we have issues with our transmission, we've got a recorded talk on YouTube, so we'll switch to that and you'll be able to fast forward to wherever we got to. It's the same talk, basically. Okay, so we start off with prayers for the Path of Indivisible Great Bliss and Emptiness by Geshe Acharya Thubten Loden, starting on page 19, Praise to Shakyamuni Buddha. And we'll say a couple in Tibetan and most of them just in English. And the idea of the prayers, for if there's anyone new attending, then we're trying to give voice to our aspiration for enlightenment and acquaint ourselves with all the various stages on the path to enlightenment, focus on those, and also get a connection with the three jewels of refuge, the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, and also to the lineage of gurus from Shakyamuni Buddha down to our present-day guru, who you see in the photo behind us, Geshe. So we're trying to focus on some wonderful things during the prayers. Kampa Chandandi Dijin Jepa Dajampa Yantapa Sopi Sanji Ripa Dan Zatu Dempa Dewa Jepa Jiten Jempa Jeba Dewi Tanu Jowa Nana Mepa Nadan Minaji Tampa Sanjay Chandandi Paljava Shatya Tupama Satsama Chada Jatsu Chivo. Teacher, Bhagawan, Tathagata, Arhat, perfectly pure and complete Buddha, all-knowing, having poise, Sugata, apprehender of the world, navigator of beings to be subdued, incomparable, teacher of gods and humans, to the Buddha, the Bhagawan, the glorious conqueror Shakyamuni, we prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. Sanghajo Danta Tihi Jananda Chacha Badrutani Jatsuti Tadi Jitsadi Pizonati Tama Penjisanji Tapajo. To the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, I go for refuge until becoming enlightened. Through the merit of my generosity and so on, may I achieve Buddhahood to benefit all beings. To the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, I go for refuge until becoming enlightened. Through the merit of my generosity and so on, may I achieve Buddhahood to benefit all beings. This ground, anointed with perfume and strewn with flowers, Mount Meru, the four continents, adorned with sun and moon, imagined as a Buddha land and offered thus. May all beings enjoy such pure lands. Then page 21. I prostrate my three doors with a mind of respect and offer all actually arranged and mentally emanated offerings. I reveal all the downfalls and negativities that I have ever collected and rejoice in the virtues of individuals and superiors. Please remain perfectly abiding until samsara is no longer seen. I request you to turn the vast and profound wheels of Dharma. I dedicate the virtues of myself and others to the great enlightenment. Page 23, Prayer of the Lineage of Gurus. Body born from 1,000,000 magnificent excellent virtues, speech fulfilling the hopes of infinite beings, a mind that sees all objects of knowledge precisely, I bow my head to the chief among the Shakyas, supreme sons of the incomparable teacher, carrying the load of all the conqueror's deeds, by their emanations appearing in countless realms. I prostrate to Maitreya and Manjushri. The mother of conquerors is difficult to fathom. The precise thought is in commentaries written by Jambuvipa's ornaments, Nagarjuna and Asanga. I prostrate at the feet of those most renowned in the three realms. From these two great chariots come the excellent lineages of the paths of profound view and vast deeds, their essential points gathered thoroughly and without fault. Prostration to the lamp holding this treasure of instruction. Giving explanation through compassion, by seeing precisely and completely the essential points of all paths of Sutra and Tantra, holder of the conqueror's entire holy Dharma, prostrations to the glorious lesson Drapa. I, seeing all the infinite teachings, supreme way of crossing for those entering the journey to liberation, moved by compassion to deeds skilled in method, prostrations to the spiritual masters who make everything clear. Then the great treasury of excellence, the prayer of the path to enlightenment. The kind master is the basis of all qualities, and proper alliance is the root of the path. By seeing this excellence and through much striving, bestow blessings to be devoted with great respect. This gentle support of freedom, obtained this one time, is most difficult to achieve. Knowing its great value gives rise to a mind seizing its essence constantly day and night. Bestow blessings to generate this continuum unceasingly. It is like a bubble in water, this constantly moving body and life. Thus remember the swift collapse of death. Beyond death, like body and shadow, white and black karmic results follow after. By gaining firm certainty in this, the mass of faults, subtle and very subtle, are abandoned, and the accomplishment of all virtuous collections completed. Bestow blessings to ever attain conscientiousness. The qualities of samsara are unfit to be trusted, the door to all suffering. Do not be content with these enjoyments. By knowing its defects, bestow blessings to develop a great aspiration for the bliss of liberation. By that pure thought, great conscientiousness is drawn forth, and mindfulness and awareness of the individual liberation, the root of the teachings, bestow blessings to make this the essential practice. Just as I myself have fallen into samsara's ocean, All living beings as mother are also like that. By seeing the responsibility for the liberation of beings, bestow blessings to be trained in supreme bodhicitta. However, by merely generating the mind, if not acquainted with the three aspects of ethics, enlightenment will not be attained. By seeing this excellence, bestow blessings to train with strong effort in the vows of the conqueror's sons. Pacifying distraction toward perverse objects, by way of proper analysis of the perfect meaning, bestow blessings to swiftly and continuously generate the path related to the union of calm abiding and special insight, thus becoming a vessel trained in the common paths, enter the Vajrayana, supreme evolution of all vehicles, bestow blessings to engage the easy path itself, that sacred way of crossing for fortunate beings. The base of practice for the two aspects of attainment is when guarding the pure vows of commitment is found to be genuine and certain, bestow blessings to protect them even at risk of life. Then, by understanding properly the important points, which are the essence of the two stages of the Tantra classes, bestow blessings to practice according to these holy teachings, with continuous effort in the supreme four-session yoga. Like that, may the spiritual friend revealing the gentle path and the friends of proper practice stand firm, bestow blessings to quickly pacify the masses of outer and inner hindrances. In all rebirths, may I never be parted from perfect gurus and the enjoyment of the glorious Dharma. By utterly completing all qualities, paths, and grounds, may I quickly achieve the state of Vajradhara. So we'll start off with some meditation as usual. So just setting yourself in a comfortable spot with your back reasonably straight, whether you're in a chair or sitting on a cushion, and reasonably straight back but relaxed, and letting go of any tensions, any worries that have built up during the week, any preoccupations, determined to have a holiday during this session from all our normal dialogue, chatter, worries, and so on. So just focusing on the breath, the natural rise and fall of the breath. So find the object of concentration, the object of meditation, the sensation of your breath. And stabilize your attention on the breath. And if anything else appears to mind, other than the sensation of the breath, just come back. Let it go, come back, relaxing on the breath. And that's known as the yoga of relaxation. We gain a holiday from all our noisy mind. So now we can practice the immeasurable of compassion. Of the four measurables, there's one, the immeasurable of compassion. So this has four aspects, or four parts, where progressively we build our meditation in those four parts of the immeasurable of compassion. So those four parts are aspiration and wishing and superior intention, and then prayer. So first of all, recognizing everyone, our family, our friends, they're the same as ourselves. In wanting to avoid, get away from any discomfort, any suffering, unhappiness. No one likes it. And all humans are the same. All animals are the same. They don't like suffering. And all beings in all the realms, particularly the lower realms, the hell realms, the spirit realms, the hungry ghost realms, the animals, the humans, all living beings, even the gods, demigods. No one likes suffering. But we experience a great deal within samsara. Because our minds are bound by negative karma and delusion. So we experience the results of those. From internal difficulties, such as dissatisfaction, unhappiness, worry and anger and so on. And external difficulties, such as sickness and car accidents and so on. So we develop aspiration, immeasurable of compassion for all living beings, with the simple aspiration, may all living beings, may everyone be free of suffering and all its causes. So thinking from one's heart and stabilize on that thought. Wouldn't it be good if all living beings were free of suffering and its causes? The aspiration, wouldn't it be good? And we go a little deeper and we practice wishing immeasurable of compassion. So rather than just an aspiration, the wish is regarded as like a deeper a stronger, more heartfelt. So wishing immeasurable of compassion, may all living beings be free from suffering and all its causes. So stabilize on that wish, that heartfelt wish. May all living beings be free from all suffering, all difficulty, and all the causes. Then we develop superior intention and immeasurable compassion, where we feel just wishing is not enough. So we develop the superior intention. We take responsibility. May all living beings be free of all suffering and all its causes. I will cause them to be free. We take it as a personal responsibility. No matter how long it takes, I will cause them to be free. Thinking from one's heart. Then we develop the last of the four, prayer immeasurable of compassion, where we pray to our Guru, or we pray to Lord Buddha, or to all the Buddhas, all holy beings, Bodhisattvas. So we can visualize, for example, our Guru encompassing all objects of refuge in front of us, or Shakyamuni Buddha in front of us. And we think, may all living beings be free of all suffering and all its causes. I will cause this to be so. Please bless me to do this. Please empower me to do this. And we make a request from our heart. And then finally we develop the mind of enlightenment, bodhicitta. And we focus on, in order to free all living beings from all suffering, I must attain enlightenment. I must remove all obscurations from my Buddha nature, the pure nature of mind, for the sake of all living beings. And we focus on this aspiration for enlightenment, for the benefit of all. And if we can generate bodhicitta for even 1 second, we completely open our hearts and minds to all living beings and to our enlightened potential. It's enormous merit, enormous benefit in our continuum. So it's worth us taking the time. And we can finish the meditation. So, this will be the last week we're looking at the perfection of ethics, so we've got quite a lot to cover. We're on the perfection of ethics from this Path to Enlightenment, Geshe's masterwork, Path to Enlightenment in Tibetan Buddhism, which explains all the stages of what we need to do to become happy and peaceful and eventually traverse the entire path to enlightenment, all in one book, which is pretty incredible. It's an incredible lineage, the Path to Enlightenment lineage. So previous weeks we've looked at ethics just generally to get some sense of how ethics isn't a remote philosophical thing. It's part of our life all the time. We're assessing our actions, other people's actions, how we are, how we think of other people, and we're assessing them in terms of good or bad. Was that good or bad? Was it right or wrong? Is it okay, not okay? Are they trustworthy or not? So our ethical framework is in operation all the time, and we need to modify, as part of the path to enlightenment, we need to modify our ethical framework and to purify our mind of negativity and harmful actions and so on. And last week we looked at Nagarjuna's quote on page 681, where Nagarjuna, in Letter to a Friend, said, "Ethics is the basis of all qualities, just as the earth is the basis of the moving and unmoving." So our practice of ethics is said to be the basis of all our happiness. We can't have we can't have a peaceful mind, we can't attain a human rebirth without a good practice of ethics. So and we looked at how the Buddha said our own practice of ethics, the practice of ethics, is like a beautiful ornament that we should cherish, we should polish, and it's like a fragrance or a perfume. It's something we need to focus on. So this week we're going to look at the divisions of ethics. We're going to drill down a bit more and look at what are the 3 divisions of ethics. So when we said the Path to Enlightenment prayer earlier, we said, however, by merely generating the mind, if not acquainted with the 3 aspects of ethics, enlightenment will not be attained. So we need to practice these 3 divisions of ethics. So that's the ethics of restraint, ethics of virtuous actions, and ethics of working for the benefit of others. They're the 3 main divisions. And the first one, ethics of restraint, is restraining our body, speech, and mind, particularly from the 10 non-virtues, but also from other things that aren't specifically laid out in the 10 non-virtues. But avoiding the 10 non-virtues is like the core practice of ethics within Buddhism, and it's said to, I think it's said to encompass all other non-virtues within those 10. So there's no point in us practicing a religious tradition or a spiritual tradition. There's no point us practicing Mahayana practices, and there's no point us practicing the Vajrayana if we're not making an effort to avoid the 10 non-virtues. It's the backbone or the basis of all further realizations. So I think yesterday His Holiness mentioned that it's he mentioned 16 points required for to gain a human rebirth, according to Nagarjuna. He was giving a commentary on Nagarjuna text, and avoiding the 10 non-virtues was included in those. He was giving a commentary on the Precious Garland. So the first one is, the first of the 10 is avoiding killing. We need to avoid killing. So we need to put if you've got an AK-47, you need to put it back under the stairs or chop it up with an angle grinder. And we need to avoid killing, no matter if someone drives in front of you in traffic and then cuts in front of you and slams the brakes on, or if we're trying to get something done and a very process-driven bureaucrat is immensely frustrating us, then we absolutely, there's no killing. And no killing of animals and no killing of insects. So because of the harm to others, but also because of the terrible karma we accumulate if we kill other living beings, because everyone is the same as ourselves. Everyone cherishes their life. So that's the first essential one. And joking aside, it's there's lots of people are killed, like here in Australia. There's one woman killed every week by their partner or ex-partner. And so violence is pretty commonplace, and in some countries much worse than others. Killing of humans and killing of animals happens everywhere. So it's so we can avoid stepping on ants, and we can avoid putting worms onto hooks and then asphyxiating fish by pulling them out of the water. We can avoid all that karma of killing and all the harm of that killing. And His Holiness, he did say the compassion is part of our basic nature, compassion for others. So it's almost like we're doing damage to our basic goodness if we kill another living being. So we need to avoid that one. So the second one is abandoning stealing. We need to be careful not to steal things, no matter if it's small things or big things. So whether it's if we share a fridge with others in the house and they've got something particularly delicious, and then we snaffle that and think we've got away with it. Unfortunately, we have accumulated a karma of stealing, and as a cause of future suffering, as well as anguish for your housemate who is hanging out for that bit of pizza. Also, things like just stealing stationery from the office where you work, or in the supermarket auto checkout, slipping something into the bag without scanning it, then that's also accumulating this karma of stealing. So we absolutely have to avoid stealing as best we can. Then the third one is there's three of the body. three non-virtues of the body. The third one is sexual misconduct. So that's to avoid, there's lots of criteria for what that is, but generally it's avoiding engaging in relationships that will harm someone, harm another relationship, or harm our own partner, engaging in sneaking off with a neighbor, or sneaking off with someone at work, or and definitely I shouldn't make jokes about farmyard animals, so I won't go there. But avoiding not being driven by desire and causing relationship problems. And for fully ordained monks and nuns, then that includes relationships with anyone. So that's damages the ordination. So now there's four non-virtues of speech. So the first one is to abandon lying. We have to become a truthful person, which makes you a standout person these days. It's said we're living in the post-truth era, and there's so much untruth on the internet. There's so much untruth. For example, the Washington Post runs a fact check on President Trump, and they say in 2019, the average was 22 false or misleading statements every day. That's according to the Washington Post. So you can say 1 and 1 equals 3, and the next day you can say, "Oh, I didn't say that," and the next day you can say, "I was being sarcastic." So it's just compiling, and it's the same with politicians everywhere, and it's the same in society everywhere. People are learning. Sometimes you can get what you want through lying. You can get acquire some short-term gain through lying, but according to the Buddha, it's not worth it, because we're conditioning our mind to become a sneaky person. We're developing that habit, and we're acquiring a negative karma for a lower rebirth and poor, even if we get a human rebirth, then poor conditions, surrounded by dishonest and deceptive people. So, it's very easy to do. Like in the office, people say, "Oh, just say I'm not here." Someone will ask you to lie to cover them, or they'll do it themselves. The next one is harsh speech. So that can be just making a joke at someone's expense with ill intent. Rather than a good mate, you can make a joke at their expense, and it's acceptable, and people like it. It's sort of a sign of mateship. But no, with ill intent, then making a joke at someone's expense, or saying to someone, "Just the sight of you makes me want to vomit." That's not very nice. Or a really bad example in the news recently, it was reported as the Eastern Freeway crash, where 4 police officers were killed, and then the person who wasn't killed, whose car was crushed, then taunting and saying some extremely harsh things to the dying police officer. So that's a very heavy negative karma, according to the Buddha. Harsh speech. It's a cause of, we receive harsh speech in return, and can be cause of low rebirth and difficult environment and so on. So the fifth one is, the sixth one is divisive speech. So that's the third non-virtue of speech. And divisive speech is where we're trying to split up some sort of relationship, cause a schism for whatever intention. It may be, again, motivated through negativity. If we cause a schism in a community or in a country or So, for example, again, a politician can start cranking up the negative rhetoric about migrants, for example, when the politician's becoming unpopular. So they utilize divisive speech. They're trying to divide their nation to split the country and gain some support through some animosity that they're cultivating. And this happens on social media also. Even state actors. I've seen saw a doco on, according to the documentary, then Russia was prior to American elections. Then on social media generating fake Facebook accounts that generate animosity on both sides of an issue. So it can be the issue of climate change, or it can be the issue of migration. And then there's even, so these fake websites cultivate followers with very emotive speech. And then they even organize demonstrations. So the people are facing off against each other, not realizing that the whole thing has been set up by people who weren't even American, or whichever country this is occurring in. So yeah, social media's have to watch out for divisive speech in social media. Then the last one of non-virtue of speech is gossip. So that's gossip is just filling silence with something meaningless, and it can be, and as well as gossip, it can be relaying gossip again, like in slow motion, action replay. Then I said this, then she said this, then I said that, then she said, and so double gossip, gossip on top of gossip. So the thing about gossip is it steals our attention from anything meaningful, and it makes it more difficult for your mind to be able to focus, and particularly being able to focus on the Dharma, because it's always flitting away, similar to our addiction to our smartphones, like overstimulation. It's always flitting away to some trivial little thing, so we can't stay with the Dharma. All right, so next there's three of mind. So the first one is wrong view. And wrong view is not a moral judgment. It's not specifically saying, oh, this is morally wrong, you're bad, and so on. It's saying it's in terms of truth, it's a wrong view. And particularly wrong views that are associated with the Dharma or the path to enlightenment are particularly damaging. So we might have the wrong view that actions don't matter. You know, once an action's finished, it's once we've done it, it's finished, it's out of the way. So if we steal something or we punch someone on the nose, then it's over and we've got away with it. So that's not understanding karma. It's not understanding how the mind is habituating particular negative actions, or how the negative action is disturbing the mind, and how it's also creating a seed imprint in the mind that will particularly ripen in future lives as a suffering experience. So that's said to be a wrong view. Or it might be the wrong view that the mind is the brain. The mind is just an emergent property of the brain. And as the brain deteriorates as we get older, we might get Alzheimer's, and that's the end of it. That's the end of our mind. So quite a depressing outlook. Whereas according to the Buddha and according to this unbelievable lineages of great masters who have controlled and mastered their minds, then consciousness is our continuum of consciousness continues forevermore. It's beginningless. One moment of consciousness being the main cause of the next moment. And the things like the brain, our eyes, our ears, the environment, they're all secondary causes for this moment of consciousness you have right now. But the primary cause is that previous moment of awareness. And neuroscientists have never, I don't think, ever given a cogent explanation how electrochemical activity can cause a moment of awareness, a moment of consciousness is such an extraordinary thing. So yeah, that would be a wrong view. And also not understanding the nature of the mind, that we have Buddha nature. The underlying nature of the mind is completely pure clarity and awareness. It's not tainted by our negative acts. And that is what enables us to become enlightened. So we need, wrong views are a major problem. They obstruct our progress. We don't realize who we are, what our potential is, or what the path is. Okay, the ninth is ill will. So ill will or malice is just having harmful wishes towards others. You want someone to fail, you want someone to stuff up, you may even want someone to die through ill will. And again, that's incredible negative karma. And we need to purify our minds and challenge it when it arises. And the last is covetousness. So this is similar to the root delusion of attachment, but it's specifically towards other beings' possessions or qualities. So grasping after your neighbour's nice shiny BMW, or your neighbour's nice young husband or wife, grasping after that, or grasping after someone's good reputation, their popularity, and so on, then that's covetousness, or grasping after your boss's position at work and trying to undermine them. So, yeah, they're the 10 non-virtues, and it's said they encompass all things. So no matter what harm we're doing to others, they're encompassed within those 10 non-virtues. The next part of this ethics of restraint, of vowed restraint, is the various vows we take. So there's individual liberation vows, bodhicitta vows, and vajrayana vows. And the idea of vows is similar to, for example, people take wedding vows. You say, well, why do you do that? And I suppose down the track, some people wonder why they did that, actually. But assuming it's a good, happy relationship, the idea of the vow is to, I'm not sure what the idea is, but I think it's to make it more prominent in your mind, that you're making a decision not just based on the short term, you're making a decision on the long term that you're going to adhere to. So it's like a long-term decision or commitment. So in Buddhism, we got heaps of vows. You can take bucketfuls of vows if you like. There's the individual liberation vows, and they're there to modify our behaviour, and that supports ethical behaviour that will enable us to be liberated from samsara. So in personal liberation. And they're part of the Bodhisattva path, and this practice of the ethics of restraint supports the two other practices of ethics, the ethics of gathering virtuous dharma and supporting other living beings. So within the individual liberation vows, there's one-day vows people can take, up to 8 vows. There's layman and laywoman vows you can take, 5 vows of not killing, stealing, no sexual misconduct, lying, and intoxicants. You can take those for life. And then there's a various more extensive sets of vows that nuns and monks take. And it said the benefits of restraint, according to the path to enlightenment, is the benefit aren't that we we're not trying to become goody two-shoes, sort of insipid, just trying to do as we're told and please mummy and so on. And we're also not trying to become uptight and frustrated because we can't do things we want to do. And we're not trying to become self-righteous because we've got these vows. As Geshe used to say, Dharma practice is joyful. If we're actually practicing Dharma correctly, then it leads to a joyful mind. So we need to keep aware of that when we. So some people, often when you get out of school, you think, great, I've got away from all those rules. That is such a relief. Other people imposing rules on me. Who needs that? I don't want it. That's the way I felt when I left school. It was fantastic. So we're not we're not having someone else impose rules on us. The vows, we're imposing rules upon ourselves because we, through our own Dharma wisdom, through looking in the Dharma mirror, through our own analysis, we can see, well, I do have impulses that cause problems. I do have impulses that even in this life, they cause me heaps of relationship aggro and hardship. I do have impulses that are bad for my health. I'm always drinking down their sick shakes and the bucket full of fries and chicken nuggets and so on, or I'm smoking, or I'm drinking, I'm gambling, I'm stealing, I'm lying, whatever. I've got my eating disorder, I've got this impulse that's making me starve myself, so we've got heaps of impulses. I'm always competitive and that gets people's backs up, or whatever. I'm always worried. So we've got heaps of impulses that cause us problems. And recognizing that is why we take these individual liberation vows, because we need to gain more control of our mind if we do want long-term peace and happiness and so on. So and if you look through society, there's endless evidence of these impulses, like various addictions and abusive households where everyone's unhappy because there's so much aggro going on, and and even wars. The impulse of people to go to war or leaders to take people to war. There's endless suffering from stupid impulses running to suffering. So we need these restraint. We need some restraint. And also we need, because of brain plasticity, and because we can change habits, we can change these pathways within us that make it easier to react in a habituated way. We can change if we're prepared to expend energy and apply the Dharma and so on. We can change those patterns. And the path to enlightenment said, if we do so, then eventually our acts will become pure. We'll no longer have obscured Buddha nature, and we'll gain realizations. We're just clearing these obscurations from our pure nature of mind. And through our practice of ethics, that's what we're trying to do. So I'll give a quote from the path, where it says on page 687, quote from the Sutra of Having Pure Ethics, where the Buddha said, bhikkhus, which means monks, it is easy to part from your life and die, but not so with degenerated ethics. Why? By parting from life and dying, just this lifespan is exhausted. But if your ethics degenerate and you die, for 100 times 100,000 rebirths you are parted from your lineage. You will be devoid of happiness and experience great suffering. So that's pretty heavy-duty consequences, the Buddha's saying, from having pure faulty ethics. So definitely, when at the time of death is our most important time, we'll be projecting our next life. We want to go with having purified all the harm and regret and faults and broken vows. And it's best not to leave that till the last minute, but to try and get in a habit of, we try to do some purification and some regret and some realization we don't need to act like an idiot. We don't need to be harmful. We can actually be better people. We do have Buddha nature within. So yeah. So the next two sets of vows are bodhicitta vows, which we've looked at briefly, but if you want, you can study on page 609. We have the bodhicitta vows, which enable us to not only gain individual liberation, but traverse the path to enlightenment. So we need to acquaint ourselves with those minds and try to act somehow in accordance with them. And then lastly, there's the Vajrayana vows. How are we going for time? Yeah, okay. Lastly, there's the Vajrayana vows. So there's very specific vows. I won't go into those for the practices. For example, our practice of Vajrayana and Yamantaka, the Geshe gave initiation into many times. We can purify those vows and we should try and uphold those vows. So purifying the vows is, like I said, is something we should do. Often we might feel our conscience is being troubled, or just we feel we're full of gunk. We haven't got any clarity. We haven't got any confusion. The Dharma's sort of drifting away from us a bit. Then that's a great time to purify our vows. And we can purify with specifically thinking about all the things we've broken and feeling regret from them. And we can use the four opponent powers. I won't because time's running out on this section. I won't go into the four opponent powers. They're mentioned in a couple of places in the book. But basically, we power of the object, so that we visualize the Buddha or our Guru in front of us. Then power of regret, we regret everything we've done. The power of the opponent action, we do something virtuous, like we might meditate on bodhicitta, or we might go and help some people. And then power of commitment, we decide and commit not to do it again. So we can purify all our faulty ethics through that. So next is the ethics of gathering virtuous dharmas. And this includes all virtuous actions. So your actions of listening or reading the Dharma and acquainting the mind, thinking about the Dharma and meditating on the Dharma, that's gathering virtuous dharmas. So this, specifically in the Path to Enlightenment, it mentions 11 virtues. So the 11 virtuous mental factors. Sorry, there's so many lists in this, but we need it to develop clarity and to drill down on more specifically onto different aspects of ethics. So virtuous mental factors they're aspects of mind that supplement our the main object of mind is called the primary mind, and secondary minds or mental factors, they give context or they different aspects. So you might see someone, that might be the primary mind, and then you might have some feeling or aspiration or some other thing with regards to that. Or you might see a picture of the Buddha, and then you might have faith arise in your mind. So that's a secondary mind. So these 11 mental virtuous factors are, first one is faith. So that's where we observe the three jewels, the holy Dharma, the holy Buddha, holy Dharma, holy Sangha, or we observe our Guru, and we generate a mind of faith. There's some joyful sense associated with apprehending or cognizing these wonderful things. So it's a joyful mind without agitation. And it can have, according to the path to enlightenment, faith can have different aspects. It can have clarity, conviction. It can have admiration. It can have admiring faith or longing faith. You long for this quality that the Buddhas have. I long for the quality of a peaceful mind or a stable mind or a better mind. And Geshe, when he was teaching Buddha potential, belief or faith is one of the 4 qualities that are a sign that our Buddha nature is awakening. So Geshe said, we need marvelous confident belief in the Buddha's teachings. Definitely, certainly, confidently, belief in the Buddha Dharma, in the Hinayana, in the Mahayana, and in the Vajrayana. If you truly believe in the Mahayana Dharma, the cause of the Mahayana Dharma, the path of Mahayana Dharma, and the result of Mahayana Dharma, then it's very easy. It doesn't matter if you have very poor conditions or disease, then you will still practice the Mahayana Dharma. And so that's the importance of faith. Second mental virtuous factor is shame. So that's not shame in the sense of I'm a terrible person at heart. I've got this, I'm fundamentally bad and flawed, and I'm, that sort of shame. That's not what's been talked about. Shame is just, that sense we need to hide this bad part of us within is not the shame. It's the shame is our conscience restraining our body, speech, and mind. So our own conscience having awareness. I've let myself down. I've shouted at this person. I've got really grumpy, and shame is just saying that's fallen below the standards that I'm trying to live to, and it's an inner voice about whether what we've done is right or wrong. The next one is embarrassment. So that's more how do our acts, we're embarrassed because of our negative acts, how they've affected others. Someone saw me shouting at that person. The person who I shouted at saw it as well. So embarrassment is the mind that's more concerned about the effect we've had with our negativities on others. So although some people think it's cool not to care what other people think, embarrassment is a virtuous mental factor, and so we should be concerned about our effect on others, because we're trying to help others as well as get to enlightenment ourselves. The fourth one's non-attachment, so that's the mind that's detached from the 8 worldly dharmas. So it's a mind that's not clinging or grasping onto the short-term things like, the things that give us pleasure and that we focus on a lot, and they motivate us a lot if we're ordinary beings, which, speaking of myself, sadly am, and most beings in samsara are quite strongly affected, driven by these. So non-attachment is becoming detached, seeing that these things don't have the power or the substance to place us in enduring well-being. We need to traverse the path. We need to work internally if we want enduring well-being. The fifth one's non-hatred, so that's the absence of absence of the wish to harm. So it opposes hatred and anger. The sixth one is non-ignorance. And the commentary Geshe gives on that is that's our faculty, our ability to analyze, to rely on our intelligence, our own wisdom, to ascertain what is a reliable path to peace, what is a reliable Dharma path. So checking out the Buddha's teachings with our intelligence, and then we can actually see the Dharma is reliable, and we've worked it out with our own intelligence, our own reasoning. We haven't just relied on someone saying, yeah, do this because it's good. The seventh is joyous effort. So this is delighting in a virtue, and it stops laziness. If we actually have delight or pleasure in our Dharma practice, we don't dread the cushion. It's no good if you see your cushion and you think, oh God, I can't stand the thought of going and sitting with my own mind. So this faculty, this aspect of the mind, joy in the nature of the Dharma, what it brings to our world, to our life, then the joyous effort supports. And it opposes the three lazinesses of procrastination, putting off our Dharma practice till later, the laziness of inadequacy, the thought that I can't do this, I'm not good enough, my mind's too scattered, I'm too grumpy, I can't actually practice the path, which is just laziness according to the Buddha. And because everyone can, and everyone has that capacity, and the laziness of being attracted to meaningless activities, which again we all do. So joy in the Dharma opposes that. You end up thinking, I don't want to spend my life watching TV, just TV, because this Dharma is so meaningful. It's such a wonderful thing. Then the eighth thing is pliancy. So that's focusing on what we wish to focus on. So in the 9 stages of concentration, in the section on calm abiding in the path, I think the 9th stage is holding the object with. Oh no, I'm sorry. That's equanimity. Sorry. Yep. So pliancy. It's an aspect as our concentration develops. The mind becomes very supple, and the body too, and we can focus on what we wish. Then 9th one is conscientiousness, and this is where we cherish virtue, and so we cherish. If you see someone being kind, or you do something that's kind, then you cherish that. You think it's through your conscientiousness. The 10th one is this state of equanimity. So I was mentioning in the 9 stages of developing calm abiding, the 9 stages of concentration that result in calm abiding. The 9th stage is placement with equanimity. So at this point, it's said to be a very natural, spontaneous state of mind, free from all agitation, doesn't require any effort. So just a buoyant, a clear, wonderful mind, free from agitation, free from delusion. And the last one is non-harmfulness. So that's abandoning the intent to harm. It supports our compassion, and it supports our patience. So those are the 11 virtuous mental factors. So we should try to cultivate those. And the third, So very quickly, I'll just mention the third section on ethics, ethics of benefiting living beings. So that's based on, again, there's a list of 11. I won't go through them all, but it's based on we're supporting others not because we want to just follow the rules, but because deep down we know others are the same as us, exactly the same as us. They don't like suffering, they want happiness, they want peace, they want good things in their lives. And motivated by empathy. And the path to enlightenment, Geshe said, when we're trying to help others, it should come from a place of compassion and respect, not from some superior position, that I'm so good, I'm helping you, but from a position of humility, that I could easily be in this situation. I've been in this situation in previous rebirths, and from compassion and respecting that person. So So I'll quickly read through the list. It's helping people who are suffering generally, such as sick, poor, disabled people, helping those ignorant of the methods. So that's people who have no access or knowledge of the Dharma. So you might have someone who's been angry all their life, and it might be someone, for example, who helps mediate in family violence. So if someone's being violent towards their family, and they're getting to the point where they can't stand what they're doing, but they don't have the methods, then you've really got to take your hat off to a mediator who can sit within that and actually help that person develop the methods. So the Dharma methods and the path to enlightenment can help with all delusions. So it's maybe in an informal way helping people just how to settle the mind, or how to. There's lots of instructions from Shantideva on cultivating patience, or so on. Yeah. So the next one is benefiting those in need of help, which is a general one. And again, Geshe said we need to practice humility and be respectful. Protecting those in danger, whether it's someone in danger from sickness, needs some medicine, or it's starvation, or slavery, or abuse, or bullying, or whatever the danger. So we should try and do what we can. Helping those afflicted with misery, so people who are really lonely or depressed or suicidal, then lending an ear and helping them get the services they need, or if they're interested in some meditation, then helping learn to meditate. Helping the poverty-stricken and the homeless with food or money or shelter. Helping others according to their wishes. So that's an important one. Not ramming because you identify yourself as a Buddhist. Not trying to ram some ideology down someone else's throat. So helping them according to their wishes and their predispositions. So whatever tradition they are, or if they don't have a religious tradition, and then trying to understand their personality and trying to help them according to that. Offering what Dharma you can, doesn't have to be using Dharma terminology, according to what's useful for that. And then helping others on the wrong path, and then helping others using miracle powers. Probably most of us can't do that. That was sort of more Geshe-la's line of activity, where he could actually display clairvoyance and other qualities that he showed to his long-term students. But for most of us, we're not that good at abracadabra, and So we might start to feel, well, I've got compassion fatigue. There's endless beings that need help. It's just overwhelming, and I'm exhausted. It's hard enough just helping myself. We've all got self-cherishing. We've all got preoccupation. We spend most of our lives thinking about ourselves or acting to get rid of this itch, or get rid of this scratch, or get rid of this thirst or hunger. We look after ourselves a lot. So with compassion to fatigue, I think we need to be supported by our understanding of the entire path to enlightenment. We need the big picture. We need to understand what we're doing isn't finished when we're helping someone. We've actually accumulated merit. We've affected our minds. We've made a seed imprint for good rebirth. We've done it with bodhicitta. We've created the cause of enlightenment. So it's really something wonderful. And also we might have helped someone else along the path. So we need the big picture, our Dharma wisdom. But at the same time, we need to be realistic with how much help. We don't want to be too idealistic. like the new psychologist who thinks they're going to go out and cure everyone. And then after a few years, they realize they have to wait for the right time and just do what they can. But yeah, because if we're idealistic, we get disappointed, we get frustrated. So Geshe always said, take care of what yourself. That's very good advice. And all those advices, Geshe simplified it, and he'd often say, to look after ourselves, you need to calm down, settle down and relax. Everything's okay, no need to stress. If you practice Dharma, if you help others, support others and look after others, then your life is useful, worthwhile and meaningful. So that's a very simple instruction. When sometimes the path to enlightenment can feel there's 10 of this, 11 of this, but boiling it down, we're just trying to practice Dharma. We're trying to head towards enlightenment, and we're trying to support and help others in that direction as well. So then, very briefly, there's the next section is practicing ethics with the ancillaries. So we can practice ethics. There's 3 supreme qualities or 6 supreme qualities, or practicing ethics with the 6 perfections. And I'll only very briefly, because I won't have time today. So we'll just look at the 3 supreme qualities. So whenever we do an action, we need to practice it with supreme reliance. That's ideally with bodhicitta, with supreme method, which is the wisdom aspect, so looking at the emptiness of oneself and one's action, and the act and the object of ethics, and also supreme dedication towards the enlightenment of all living beings. So if we do practice, for example, I'll restrain my anger, I'll do something, or I'll feed some birds, that ethical action, ethics of benefiting others. We can think, I'll give this rice, this handful of rice, when may it become the cause of enlightenment, of my enlightenment to benefit others. So we've relied on bodhicitta, and we try to have some awareness of the emptiness of oneself, the selflessness, the egolessness, the emptiness of inherent existence of oneself, and of the rice and of that action of offering. And we also try to dedicate, when we've done it, we dedicate it towards the enlightenment of all. Then that practice of ethics becomes a perfect action and becomes a very potent thing within your continuum. It becomes a cause of enlightenment, like this sort of never-ending seed of goodness within that will support us in our path to enlightenment. So even if we can remember the 3 supreme reliances, not the 6, or even we can just remember bodhicitta, emptiness, and dedication, then our practice of whatever ethics we're trying to do, whether it's uphold a vow or restrain myself from shouting at someone or being kind to someone, then it becomes a really potent thing. And again, it's worth us taking a few moments, just as much as we can, to do that. Okay, so I think we'll might just wrap up the perfection of ethics with a quote from Chandrakirti. I think it's on page 700. And Chandrakirti, in Engaging in the Middle Way, he says, because his ethics are accomplished and have pure qualities, he abandons the stain of faulty ethics even in dreams. Because his movements of body, speech, and mind are pure, he accumulates all 10 paths of noble deeds. So that's a realization. A bodhisattva, he or she has accomplished the perfection of ethics, and even in dreams, they have no harmful thoughts whatsoever. They completely purified their mind of this urge or impulse to harm others. even under the worst possible conditions, their mind is purified, and there's no ego lashing out. So that's the perfection of ethics. All right, so we'll just say the prayer, the prayer on page 31, final prayer of the graduated path by Lord Tsongkhapa. By the two collections vast as space, amassed with effort for a long time, may I become a chief of conquerors, a guide for all beings whose mind's eye is blinded by ignorance. Also in all lives will not yet come to that. May Manjushri favour me with his compassion, finding the supreme path, complete with all stages of the teachings. May I please the conquerors by practicing well, by my precise understanding of the essential points of the path, with skillful means drawn along by strong compassion, and by dispelling the mental darkness of beings, may I uphold the conqueror's teaching for a long time. Where the supreme precious teaching has not spread, also where it has spread but become degenerate, where the mind deeply moved by great compassion, may I make clear this treasure of benefit and bliss. The stages of the path excellently established by the marvelous deeds of the conquerors and their sons give glory to the minds of those aspiring for liberation. May the conquerors' deeds be long preserved. May all humans and non-humans who remove the obstructions and establish conditions favourable to cultivating the excellent path never be parted for all of their lifetimes from the purest of paths which the Buddhas have praised. When someone makes effort to practice properly the 10 points of conduct of the Supreme Vehicle, may he always be assisted by the mighty protectors, and may oceans of good fortune spread out reaching all. Then we'll say the prayers on page 34. And because of the time, we might do the special dedication in Tibetan. Ditagi pinanta diwaya tuzande shikshita chiti sepahamana maludrupada nantahata joseph peduruna te tu liziratuntuda te choto lojida midazi ne joham senjang daktavada Vini lanjido patajizo. Whatever white virtues we have thus created, we dedicate as causes, enabling us to uphold the holy Dharma of Scripture and realization, and to fulfill without exception the prayers and deeds of all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 3 times. By the power of this merit in all our lives, may we never be parted from the 4 wheels of the Mahayana, and may we complete the journey on the paths of renunciation, bodhicitta, pure view, and the 2 stages. By this virtue, may all beings complete their collections of wisdom and merit, and attain the 2 holy bodies arisen from wisdom and merit. Geshe Acharya May the precious superior mind of enlightenment be generated in those who have not yet generated it, and not decrease in those who have developed it, but increase continuously. So thanks, everyone. If anyone's got any questions, you're welcome to send them on the live chat. I'm just looking to see. Yeah, and yeah, thanks, and have a great week, and enjoy the bit more freedom that we've got. Yeah, and stay nice and healthy. As Geshe used to say, good evening, take care of yourself. He used to very much like that. So, yeah, that's, yeah. Okay, I'll just wait a couple of secs to see if there's any questions come through on ethics. Preferably don't send through any tricky ones. Or I'm going to refer to the Venerable Mckibben La, who is here in the temple. Oh, yeah. So you type the questions on the chat screen, and if anyone wants the prayers we say, then like I say, bodhicitta.org. So that's tushita.org, and email them, and someone will send you the prayers. So yeah. So it is. I must say, it's still teaching this path to enlightenment. It's embarrassing to be sitting here near where Geshe taught, because Geshe was such a pure, extraordinary teacher, and so yeah. When you look in the Dharma mirror, it's hard to teach this stuff, but that's the perspective I'm teaching it from. That yeah, I can.